Hello everybody, here we are today and we're going to be talking about Cody Fajardo and why the rest of his career doesn't matter. So before we start, please make sure to subscribe if you're new to me or the CFL, whatever the case may be. That being said, let's get on into it. So we are in a spot where this thumbnail or this title, whatever you want to say, and all this seems kind of weird. How could Cody Fajardo's career not matter anymore? I'm just going to go out there and say it. Obviously, with him winning the Grey Cup, his impact and legacy for not only himself but the game is here forever by winning that championship. And I think that I did a video about a week ago, wanted to put it out. I didn't like the audio. I didn't really like the way that I kind of managed to get the message across. So we're doing it again, and I do feel like I'll probably be unhappy with this as well. But just one of those deals where I wanted to talk about Fajardo and why I think that the rest of this, stint in the CFL could mean nothing. I don't mean that it means nothing. I just mean that from this Grey Cup, we already are going to have an impact where we can talk about Cody for a long time. So starting off, this is not the NFL. You're not going to have a guy go out there and be the first overall draft pick and the team says we got to give him the reins. We have to do it because he is the first overall pick and we need to get him reps, and he is getting paid a decent amount of money to go out there and start right away for us. The reality is with the CFL, a lot of these guys will get their starts when they're a little bit older. In that time, they got to learn to be a backup. They got to go out there in the third and short situations, the second and short situations, and they have to go and just run the ball, get the chains moved, and continue to get this team down the field and just get a lot of rushing attempts, maybe get a lot of rushing touchdowns. People are happy with you. It's not until you're a little bit older where you get a chance. And Cody's chance didn't come until 2019 in Saskatchewan. And while I think there are two big things that people will look back at in that time, there was some success. Now, I look back at this and say that the two biggest things being the Rough Riders losing in the 2019 and 21 Western Finals. So those hurt because you're one win away from going to the Grey Cup and probably winning, maybe at least one championship, if not two. And the Rough Riders are 4-15 all-time in Grey Cup games. So for the fans, I can imagine that it was a very painful time period. However, it was also a successful time period. They went 13-5 one year, and then they went, I want to say 9-5 the other year. Wasn't as successful as a season. However, to be in the Western Final or to be in either final back-to-back years would be a great thing. And for Cody, he had maybe not the stats that you would say in 2022 were great. He was a factor in them getting the wins. Now, I know 2022 is where the sky kind of falls apart. They go 6-12. And a lot of people look at that time and say, oh, well, everything fell apart and he was a big part of it. It just seemed like, not all Riders fans, but it seemed like a vocal crowd said, Cody might need to go and he might not be our guy. When the reality is, this team went 6-12 the following season. They had a long losing streak. They didn't have Trevor Harris, but they still had talent and they had pieces, and they still ended up going and having the same exact record. Meanwhile, Cody went out there and he won the Grey Cup. Now, was everything hunky-dory, and do I think that Cody is, the MOP candidate every year? No, I don't. And I don't think we'll look back at Cody's career and say, oh, he is a all-time great from what we've seen at the moment. However, I do think we're going to look back at Cody's career and say, good guy, been able to go to multiple places and be a winner. And I think with what we've seen, his leadership and how teammates view him afterwards seems to be the crucial thing here on how we look back at his career. A lot of guys that are on his team or that were on his team have said a really lot of positive things about him, saying that he is a good team guy, he is a good leader. Those are two huge impacts. And I think with this too, Cody was the Grey Cup MVP, and while he didn't have a big playoff run, he had two huge passes in the final drive against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers that won the Alouettes their first Grey Cup since 2010. That was a big deal. One of those being on third down the sideline. That's a tough throw. The other one, of course, being the game winner to Tyson Philpott. Those were some of the things that I think on those two throws could arguably have cemented his legacy. So we're going to look back with probably your kids or grandkids or your nieces, nephews, whatever the case is, and talk about these games as fans of the CFL, and hopefully they're fans of the CFL as well. And they're going to talk about Cody Fajardo and say Grey Cup champion, which I think by him winning the Grey Cup gets rid of all that talk about couldn't beat Winnipeg, which was the biggest thing. Had he lost to Winnipeg this year, man, it really would have hurt. But also to the fact that he, was kind of pushed out of Saskatchewan. Not so much so that it was just an outright shove, but there was, again, a lot of talk about we think we should be doing something differently, and maybe he's not part of those plans. So for this, you can say now that he went to Saskatchewan, had 2 good years out of 3 years as their starter, and then went automatically to Montreal and won a Grey Cup. And Winnipeg is no longer his team. The team causing him all this heartache, and he can move forward and do whatever he wants with his career. I feel like it's a lot of weight lifted off of his shoulders, and going forward, it's almost anything that happens from now on out is a positive, as long as nothing crazy happens. If he goes out and doesn't even win another championship, but has multiple winning seasons with Montreal. I think they just signed him to an extension the other day for 2 years. I think it was, whatever the case is. He's their quarterback through 2025. He went from being a guy that was thinking about being a retired quarterback that could probably get into coaching somewhere like that, to a guy that now very well could play into his mid-30s, maybe even later, because a lot of quarterbacks in the league were able to do that. So I think we're in a situation where Montreal has been able to re-sign a lot of their talent, especially on the defensive side, where if this offense gets better, like Ottawa's still looking for a spot where they can try to improve. Maybe they're not up to snuff. Maybe Toronto takes a step back. Hamilton is one of those teams that over the past 3 years has underperformed. Maybe Montreal isn't the division winner every year, but they might have a chance again with having a consistent quarterback to go out there and maybe, just maybe, win a championship or two along the line. Again, do I have a ton of faith with this team being able to go back and take out 2 juggernauts back-to-back weeks the following season, or to replicate that consistently? No, I don't. However, I do know that they're probably in a spot where at the moment they certainly are good enough to be able to go out there and claim the second best start in the East and very well go back to the playoffs and maybe make some magic happen again. Leadership and the fact that he stepped up in a key moment are really the things that cemented this legacy, and from here on out it's all just going to be steps forward. I'm really happy for Fajardo because he does seem like a good guy. So hopefully this is going to be one of those deals where we can look back at it and say maybe he wasn't an all-time great, but he managed to play into his late 30s and has some good all-time numbers. But anyway, what are your thoughts on Cody Fajardo? Do you think that it all matters from here on out? Obviously, if you went out there and had back-to-back seasons with 30 interceptions, that would be a problem. But I'm just kind of looking at it where he plays this way or just a little bit worse or whatever that is over the next few years. So let me know down below in the comments. Also, please make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. Everybody stay safe. Have a great night.